Welcome. Good morning. Good afternoon, depending on where you are. It's good afternoon here in Amarillo, Texas. I know we have some folks joining from the West Coast and the East Coast. So good morning still to those on the West Coast. Glad to have you all. You're speaking my language. Don't get lost in the translation. You may be going, what does that mean in translation? We're going to go over that here pretty quick, but super excited to have you all join us today. We've got some special guests on that are assisting us today that you're going to get some great insights and learnings from. They're back in the celebrity green room currently, but we will introduce them to you pretty quickly. So my name is Tiffani Carter. I am coming to you from ActionCOACH of West Texas in a small town called Amarillo, Texas. And yes, right, Amarillo by Morning. Most of you know that song, and we take it to heart. So I'm glad to have you all. Keep joining. Drop us a chat. Drop us a comment. Let us know you're here. It'll be myself today joining you, as well as Donna Kapmeyer. Donna is a firm owner of ActionCOACH of Coastal Bend. I'm glad to have Donna on the call. And then our firm owner for ActionCOACH of West Texas, Rory Sheppard, is going to be on the call with us as well. So they will be your presenters today, and we're going to have a good time sharing some great information with you. So glad to have you on. Awesome. Goals for today. We do have some goals. We're going to have some fun, but we're going to get some great insight and learnings out of this today as well. So first one is, how do we expand our collective understanding of the breadth, depth, and value of assessments? We always say, right, one is great, none of them are perfect. And how do we use these to improve our team? We're going to have live interactive conversations with volunteers, as I said. They're volunteer participants in the findings from two of our favorite assessments, which is DISC, DISNC, and the Working Genius. That comes from the Table Group, Patrick Lencioni's The Table Group. We also want to offer a high value, including a 30-minute coaching call on assessment for your individual results for anyone who enrolls today. So we will be talking about that at the end of the call. So don't drop off early. Don't be the Tiffany in the group that always drops off early, right? Stick around. So enter your goals for today into the chat now. And we want to make sure we cover those. If we didn't have it planned, we can pivot pretty good. So we want to make sure that we cover those goals for you as well. So drop those in the chats. Also, drop the assessments that your team is currently using into the chat. A lot of people I talk to, they know DISC. They've done MBTI, another popular one, Enneagram. There's a lot of them out there. Strengths Finders. They're all great. What chats are you using? Getting a little bit of everything there. So add those to the chat. Fantastic. Loving it. All right. So next, I just want to introduce Rory Sheppard. As I said, he is the firm owner of ActionCOACH of West Texas, and he's going to talk a little bit about the different assessments that we can utilize.
Yes,
to you, Rory.
Yeah, thank you, Tiffany. So most of us are familiar with maybe a handful of assessments like DISC, maybe Myers-Briggs, that MBTI, maybe Enneagram. But you can see here a pretty wide range. I mean, we kind of classify them in three big different buckets, one being behaviors and personalities. So that could be DISC and motivators, emotional intelligence, positive intelligence, a conflict instrument so that we can dive deeper into what may be causing conflict on a team. Whether you're the VAC is visual, auditory, kinesthetic. So it talks about how you'll learn and how you hear things and interact with others. In the purpose set, these may be new ones to you. That's why we're going to go through two of those. But one is Working Genius, and the other is YOS. When we get to those two, we'll go deeper in detail. So Tiffany will cover Working Genius in a little more detail. I'll go through the kind of the background and the purposes of YOS. And then Strengths Finder is one that's been around for a number of years, but really kind of goes into those 34 different categories of potential strengths. And then we've got 4 that we like around productivity, but there are much more that we don't have listed here. But we've got one around your productivity time gainer. It's a tool that we've developed on ourselves around that self-discipline of time management. Sales IQ, which is a great tool that gives you insight into 8 different categories of how you are at sales and where you can improve in your sales techniques. And then we've got a couple of other assessments, next level assessment, and our 6-step scorecard, which are based on ActionCOACH tool sets. And so you can see a broad range of assessments that are available. Again, we're going to cover 3 today, which are Working Genius, YOS, and we're going to start with one called DISC and Motivators. And so it is my privilege to introduce to you in a little bit more detail, Donna Kapmeyer. So welcome, Donna. And you can see here on this slide, Donna's YOS. And again, I said I'll go into this more detail in a little bit, but this is based on Simon Sinek's Golden Circle. So the why, how, and what. Donna's why is contribute. Her how is to make sense, and her what is to simplify. So Donna believes that success happens when she contributes to a greater cause to the betterment of others. So that would be that contribute. How she does this is by solving complex and challenging problems and puts them in an organized fashion. So that would be the make sense of the how. The what is so that she can ultimately bring simple solutions that are useful, understandable, and easy to implement. From a Working Genius point of view, her 2 geniuses are galvanizing and enablement. So she is a warm and positive affirmer of others, quick to support and inspire people who need energy or reassurance. In the Working Genius context, we call her an enthusiastic encourager. And then from her motivator's point of view, she's very high on aesthetic. Or very low on aesthetic. Low on aesthetic. So she appreciates that real world approach and kind of a feet on the ground thinking, and may view those with her head in the clouds to be a little bit impractical. And then her other motivator is individualistic. She doesn't mind being in the spotlight and will desire to bring independent ideas to bear and may excel in front of others. So this is Donna Kapmeyer. So Donna, welcome.
Thank you, Rory, for the great introduction. And I'm super excited about being able to talk to you about this today. All right. I don't know if we can mute everybody off there. There we go. Some of you may be familiar with DISC and some of you may not. It's pretty common, but DISC is really about your behavioral style. And the beauty of it is once you understand your communication style or how you're wired, and even more so when you understand the communication or behavioral style of others that you may work with, it leads to a much more productive working relationship, which in turn can lead to better results in your business. All right, that's kind of the 50,000 foot view. Let's go on to the next slide. Very good. So here's kind of the layout of the graph of what the 4 quadrants mean with DISC. So let's start with D. D stands for dominance or dominant director. Ds are very quick to make decisions and they like to be communicated with at a high level. They're often results oriented, direct, and competitive. I like to use a swimming pool analogy amongst all of these different profiles. When you think about a high D will see a swimming pool and will jump in regardless of the temperature of the water, or may even fail to see if there's any water in the pool. Right or wrong, they're just going to go do it. They're just going to go make that decision. Ds are very task oriented and often the decision makers in a business. Moving over to a high I or an influencer. High Is are often very social and have a lot of friends. They have a lot of enthusiasm and are very optimistic. A high I will see a swimming pool and go back and go get a whole lot of their friends and have a big old pool party. People, again, are very important to them. You will often find people who are high Is in a sales role or somebody who is customer facing. They love people. Moving over to S. S stands for steady or stability. High S's are sincere. They're patient, they're modest, and they're calm. They like repeatability and don't like a lot of change very fast. A high I is going to see a swimming pool and they're going to go back and talk to a few of their close friends and say, hey, you know what? We can go swimming or we can go eat or we can go to the movies, but you decide. I will say high S's are often core to the operations of the business, especially when there's a lot of repeating tasks. Moving over to C's, C's are compliance-oriented or cautious thinkers. They like accuracy, they like facts, they love data. A high C will see a swimming pool, and then they're going to go to the library, and they're going to do research about swimming pools, how they're made, how they're constructed, what's the chemical makeup of them. And by the time they get back to the swimming pool, the pool is closed. Often you hear the term paralysis by analysis. That's a high C. Do they have important roles in an organization? Absolutely. Often you will find accountants in that role, people who have to be very detail oriented. You will often see them, high C's are very critical in those kinds of roles. Now, as a recap, you'll see on here as well as D's and C's are very task focused, while I's and S's are very people focused. Majority of population, I think it's like 70 some odd percent, are I's and S's. D's and I's are very outgoing and extroverts, and S's and I's are introverts. So they kind of all have a link amongst each other in a different capacity. So this is kind of the overview of what DISC. Now we're going to go through a couple of live examples, and we've got a couple of volunteers on the call and who work together, and we're going to talk about how their profiles have impacted their relationship. So with that, we've got Melissa Schremsher and we've got Sharon Hart. Thank you guys for being on the call, or gals for being on the call. They work at Kathy's Boutique. That is part of a restaurant called Harrison's Landing in Corpus Christi, Texas. Melissa reports to Sharon, and they have been working together for about 2.5 years now. So welcome. So when we look at their profiles, Melissa is a high I, and you'll see something called adapted state. Your adapted state is your state where you're in your work environment. Your natural state is when you're kind of in your home environment, which is more true to what your true state is. For Melissa, Melissa is a high I in her adapted state or in her work environment. And when she's in her natural state or at home or comfort zone, she's an ID, both influence and dominant. Sharon, what you'll find is a high I and a secondary S in both her adapted state and in her natural state, which is pretty freaking awesome. She is an influencer, and she also likes stability. But she's consistent across the board. What you will find is a lot of times is your adapted state will morph depending on what kind of role you have in the organization. Now with that, let's go ahead and walk through some of the details of the assessments that we've gone through. And we're going to start off with Melissa. From a communication perspective, Melissa, your do's and don'ts. From a do perspective, plan some extra time in your schedule for talking, relating, and socializing. And give Melissa the opportunity to express opinions and make some of the decisions. Now with Melissa, don't leave decisions hanging in the air. Be certain all decision points have reached closure and result in plans, and don't get bogged down in facts, figures, and abstractions. Now, Melissa, based on what we've discussed before, how does that resonate with you? I think you're on mute, Melissa.
It is.
There you are. All right, awesome. Hi.
The analysis was spot on. When I was reading it, it was like it read my mind because all those things are absolutely true. So.
Very good. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So from a wants and needs perspective, you tend to be motivated by recognition for your contributions mm-hmm. for the success of a project, opportunities to learn, grow, and advance at a rapid pace. And you tend to need to feel valued as a team member in order to work at top effectiveness, and some independence and flexibility in work projects, activities, and schedules. How does that reflect you?
Perfectly. I do like to have some independence, and I am a quick decision maker. And I do, leaving things hanging drives me insane. When I start a project, I like to finish it. So that's makes it difficult for me to like stop halfway through and start something else. I like to finish something and then have kind of a period dot on that one and before I move on. So that's very true.
Fantastic. So what it says about what you bring to the organization, your strengths, you understand people very well and rely on that understanding to lead, persuade, and motivate. Mm-hmm. You want to be perceived as trustworthy and easy to work with. And you want authority equal to responsibility. Now, Sharon, being her supervisor. Since you've learned these things about Melissa, how has that impacted the way that you communicate with her?
He's rolling a thing past the thing, and it's really loud. He's almost moved on. So watching or reading her assessment, it actually benefited me and how our work relationship would grow. We work very well together. It gives me pause to give her the space, and it's taught me to give her the space, because part of my thing is I like to a little bit micromanage, and so I had to learn to let go so that she could, grow as an assistant manager in her spot in her job role. But so it was eye-opening for me, and it was definitely I can't think of the word I'm thinking of, a curve, like I had to start grading on a curve type of thing and give her the space that she needed, and not get very impatient with her.
Very good. Thank you. So now let's flip the script here. Okay. Now we're going to talk about Sharon. Communication tips with Sharon, some do's. Join in with some name dropping or talk positively about people and their goals. Ask Sharon's input regarding people and specific assignments. Don't manipulate or bully Sharon into agreeing, and don't be rude or abrupt in your delivery. Sharon, based on our discussion, how does that resonate with you?
For the most part, that is 100% me. There are a few things that probably I wouldn't necessarily agree with in those assessments, but depending in certain situations, that assessment is really spot on. My defense gets raised when I am felt pushed into a corner and not giving the option to make a choice. I don't like to be bullied. I don't like other people being bullied in any sense of the word. So yeah, that is definitely me. Don't do that, or I will turn and walk away.
Awesome. Thank you. Wants and needs. You tend to be motivated by flexibility to circulate and talk to a lot of people, right? Part of the indication of being an I. A work culture that is supportive of family activities and commitments. And you tend to need a sense of belonging to the team or organization as a whole, and encouragement to keep the positive spirit and optimism, even when the pressure is on. You all are in a high pressure environment. So being optimistic is really critical. How does that resonate with you?
It resonates very well. Yes. In our nature of the business, we are tourist driven, and we get bombarded very quickly. And so we cannot get, I guess, what is the word I'm looking for, Melissa? Like you get, God bless it.
Distracted?
No, not so much distracted, but you get impatient. You get impatient with the people that are around you, and you need to be able to focus. And, tourism, we are trying to sell stuff to people in our job. So we have to interact with the guests that come into our business. And so we have to have the freedom in order to be able to do that. So yes, it's that part of the assessment was definitely spot on for both of us.
Awesome. So some strengths, you're able to build positive relationships with internal and external stakeholders. You tend to be an excellent teacher to peers on the team at all levels of the organization. And your best environment is a balance between stability, predictable work activities, and variety on a regular basis. Now, Melissa, since you've learned about Sharon, how has that changed the way you communicate back to her?
We actually had a natural stream of communication. Like we finish each other's sentences, not today, but we finish each other's sentences a lot. And when you heard her say, Melissa, what does that mean? What am I trying to think of? Usually I'll think of what it is, what she's trying to say. Our personalities are very, very similar. And we both are if something's bothering us, it's very obvious something's wrong. And so we communicate similarly to people and to each other. And so just having those solid things on paper It's just like, okay, we're doing the right thing. We're communicating the right way. It's okay if I do this. It's not okay if I do that. So having the analysis and how we relate to each other, especially because our profiles are so similar, I guess relaxed me a little as far as it came to our relationship, our working relationship, our personal relationship. So it's made a huge difference.
Fantastic. Well, I'd love to thank both of you for your time today. Y'all have been wonderful, and keep doing what you're doing because y'all are rock stars.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, let's go ahead and move along here. And now we're going to I have the pleasure of introducing Miss Tiffani Carter. Tiffani's YOS is Better Way, Simplify, and Challenge. Tiffani believes in making things better. She is an energetic, process, systems-oriented thinker who strongly believes that there is always a better way. She's always wanting to improve. We just have to find what that better way is. She is constantly looking for ways to reduce the number of steps required to complete a task, simplify it, right? Easy to understand and execute. Tiffani loves to challenge the status quo when it leads to a better, simplified process yielding predictable results. Her working genius, she's an intuitive activator, an instinctive and confident decision maker, able to assess situations quickly and accurately and marshal people to act. It's all about action. From a motivator's perspective, her aesthetics, Tiffani's aesthetic is low. She appreciates real world approaches and a feet on the ground thinking, very similar to me, and may view those with their heads in the cloud as impractical. Power is another one. Tiffani will seek to achieve positions of authority and will be drawn to roles that allow her to direct and control herself or others. And economic is her third one. She likely possesses a competitive spirit and will focus on gaining a practical return for her time and energy. Take it away, Miss Tiffani Carter.
Awesome. Thanks, Donna. Appreciate that. I'm going to discuss working genius with you all today. And if you ask Rory Sheppard, our firm owner, it is my vocabulary, that and the YOS is kind of taken over the disc. There's some great information. I'm going to go over it at a higher level. And then I've got 3 participants from Whitney Russell Printer here in Amarillo, Texas, that are going to join us and go over their results. So working genius is about gifts and frustrations. If you're a Marcus Buckingham follower, it kind of follows around loved it, loathed it, but what really gives me energy? So understanding and leveraging each team member's individual gifts and frustration is a game changer. If you have someone that's close to burnout or you get close to burnout, you've got gaps on your team. Some of you may be going, hey, how do we maximize productivity on our team? Working Genius is an assessment that we can utilize for that. And then, right, increasing innovation. But one thing that we hear all the time is how do we improve team meetings? How do we improve team communication and culture as well? So Working Genius will help with all of those. And then, sorry, Rory. So I'll go over those high level. So wonder is that person that's saying, right, they're identifying that need, the improvement for change. That person is probably coming in going, hey, I wonder. And you're like, man, they wonder a lot. No, that's fantastic, right? They're trying to make the environment around them better. So then we go to invention, which confirms the importance of that need. Do we need it? Right. And they'll start generating ideas and solutions. So if you have someone that has wonder and invent together, once the wonder comes out verbally, the innovator's taking over. Oh, well, we could do that with this. Or, hey, what about this? They're coming up with those solutions. Next is discernment. This one, it's harder to see. You don't see it happening as much it happens all the time, but you can't visually see it. And that's where we're assessing the merit and the workability of an idea or solution. They're like, hey, wonder, that's fantastic, but do we actually need a solution for that? So that would be your discerner. And then galvanizing. they're going to generate the enthusiasm and the action around the idea or solution. We're going to talk a little bit about that later, but we don't want them to do it too quickly, but are we going to move forward with that solution? Then we need someone to rally the troops to get that done. Enablement is where we initiate the support and assist in the implementation of the idea or solution, right? Their enablement, by the way, it's not enablers, it's enablement. It's getting that work done. I don't know about you guys, but we need someone to get the work done, and identifying those team members is crucial. Then the last one is tenacity. Pretty self-explanatory, right? It commits to ensuring that the idea or solution gets completed and our desired results are achieved, right? They're pushing it across the finish line. So those are the 6 working geniuses from the table group. The 6 working geniuses are also the 6 stages of work. This is what we need to get work done. If we have any teams that are missing a genius, if they're not aware of them, right, we can be missing really key components of that. Now, as you see on this graphic, W, D, and E, by the way, it does spell widget. W, D, and E on the top, those are responsive. They're going to respond to something in the environment, but invent, galvanizing, and tenacities, they're what we would call disruptors, right? They're going to move things in the environment. So some of those people might be called, hey, like you're a pot stirrer, or you're always doing this, right? Those folks are actually, disrupting the environment. So what I'd like to do now is bring Jake and Jim and John on, the 3 J's. That's what I've started calling them, from Whitco and Whitney Russell Printer. Hey guys, how are you today?
Hello. We're doing good. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks. Appreciate you guys being on. I went over their results Tuesday, so they've had a few days to think about it. So if you see the screen, Jake, his working genius is innovate in tenacity. His competency, which means he can do it, but if he has to do it for long periods of time, it can create frustration for him, is enablement and wonder. And then his frustrations, probably those things that want to make him pull his hair out if he has to do it, is discernment in galvanizing. And then Jim is discernment and wonder in his genius. His working competency is enablement in tenacity. And his frustration is innovation in galvanizing. Now, I hope you guys are paying attention, because you're going to hear a common theme with these 3. We had some surprises and some giggles Tuesday, but John, his geniuses are enablement and tenacity. His working competencies are discernment and wonder, and his frustrations are innovate and galvanize. So what was the common theme to your results the other day, guys?
We got a bunch of G's in our frustrations right there.
A bunch of G's in their frustrations. When you heard that, what did that look like to you? How did that feel?
It sounds like we need a G in a working genius type area. And it was actually a great conversation on Tuesday. And we all kind of had somebody in mind that could help elevate. We could elevate them to encourage the G working genius to kind of help move the cogs all together.
Right. I love that. And this is, you just identified why assessments are so powerful for tools, is for teams, is now that you know that you're missing it, you're looking for it in your team and saying, right. And we don't have to promote them. We just engage those folks differently so that we can move that work forward. So let me share with everyone real quick. When a team is underrepresented in the genius of galvanizing, it will often fail to act on ideas or initiatives that once seemed so promising. A lot of times those folks are going to feel like less creative, less experienced, and less less innovative competitors are getting more success than they are. So they're going to be able to utilize that information and engage people differently. So question, I don't know the answer to this. So, right, they would say, don't be an attorney, ask a question you don't know. But you've thought about that. Have you engaged anybody that might have a G?
Not just yet.
No.
Okay.
We kind of, as mentioned, we all kind of thought the same person might be a really good fit for that. More or less just kind of excited to potentially work with you on what we can do to rally some troops and kind of just engage more people and what we can do with them.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So it was a pretty quick identification for us on the missing galvanizing piece. And for those of you that weren't in the room, they kind of looked at me and Jake said, we don't even know what that looks like. What can you give us more on galvanizing? Right. Because they're completely missing it. So appreciate the vulnerability there. So let's move back to your working geniuses and your competencies. What stood out to each of you in the room when you saw, we said, hey, this is your working genius? What aha moments did you have? Jake, we'll start with you.
My assessment was pretty spot on. I am the innovator and I like to push projects all the way through to completion. I'm a finisher. I'm a starter. I'm a finisher. I like to see the results that I start out with. And that's also part of, not having that G part of it to where I rely on somebody else to help motivate or help move things along. Where I could easily pass something along and probably make life a little bit easier.
Right. And so thanks for sharing that, Jake. And he's got a larger gap. We would say, right, wonder and innovate are more the, 30, 40, 50,000 foot view, and tenacity's at the ground level. So there can be some struggles being that far apart, but like you said, right, want to be on the innovate, but ensure that we get it pushed forward. So thanks for sharing. All right. How about you, Jim? What aha moment did you take away from Tuesday?
Well, I was really amazed at how spot on the assessment really was. It nailed me to a T. Yeah, I'm the type that identifies problems and wants to change them. And also, I tend to spend a lot of time wondering if it needs to be changed or how it could be changed.
Right. And you've got a great combination with the discernment and the wonder. So he's wondering while he's discerning, is this even valid? Does it need more time? So he's doing a lot of those processes internally before he ever says it out loud. And I kind of teased him on Tuesday. He probably, right, he's on a disc, he's probably an SC or a CS. So he probably only has 400 to 500 words a day to use anyway. So it really is an internal function for him. So getting him in a room with Jake with the I and getting that verbalized is really a key for this team. Would you agree with that assessment there?
Totally.
Yeah. Love it. Awesome. All right, John, we saved the best for last. He's our ET.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So yeah, mine is also right. I've been here over 40 years, so I've learned to work within the system that we have, enable people to do their job with what we've got. Very tenacious. I'm a finisher. A lot of times I'm his finisher, which is why that keeps him from being so frustrated. If he needs something finished, I get it done. And that keeps him from having to follow something all the way, and he can keep doing what he needs to do. So it's kind of my area of expertise, what I do, and it's what I'm at.
I love it. There were some aha moments with John that he understood why some things that his team members do frustrate him as well, right? Because he is enablement and tenacity. So quick question. John and Jake, how long have y'all worked together?
20 years.
Did you learn something new through this system, through this assessment?
Obviously, we did. We learned a lot through what we are as a team, mostly. Individually, I mean, I already knew that about Jake and I's relationship. That's something that we've had.
Right.
Why he
Right.
chooses to continue to office with me. So there you go.
Right.
You better meet him.
Right.
exactly
I love
right.
that. And sometimes it just gives us verbiage for it, and we get some vocabulary around that. And Jim, how long have y'all worked together?
I've been here 30 years, so
Eh.
me and John have worked together that long, and Jake the whole time he's been here. So
Right. So I bring that up just to tell our viewers on here that when we work together a long time, we think we understand and we know it, but these guys have worked together for 20 to 30 years. And Tuesday we pointed out there was no galvanizing on their team, right? They didn't even know what that meant. I love Jake's transparency. He was like, hey, you're going to have to give me more information on that, Tiffani. Like, help me out. Like,
Yeah.
I am missing this. By the way, his wife has some galvanizing in her. I'll just tell you that.
Absolutely.
He just didn't realize it, right? Like,
Yeah.
probably has more than a little bit, but awesome. Well, this is the Working Genius assessment. It really does give good meaning and understanding about what gives us energy. Marcus Buckingham talks a lot about his research that if I can work in my geniuses and those giftings 20% of my day or week, I feel joy and energy. And that's going to help me reduce the burnout that we talked about at the beginning of this section. It's going to make me more fulfilled. If I make John sit in a room and do, invention and galvanizing, he's going to go home frustrated every day. And his wife's going to go, or anybody around him is going to say, hey, like, what's wrong with you today? He may not be able to say it, but he's working in a frustration. And so we want to set those people up to do the work that suits them best.
Mhm.
Awesome. Any other last notes to add, Jake, John, Jim, the 3 J's?
No, it was actually a really good assessment. It kind of put into perspective that you really do need to have somebody that has some of the geniuses that you don't have as far as upper level management. But and just like you said, I mean, it doesn't even have to be promoting somebody, but just encouraging somebody to display or provide themselves to be that galvanizing person, and even change maybe the way that we're doing some of the work that we're doing, kind of more centralized. Let's all get together. Let's all have a turn to talk. And then you have that galvanizing person that is rallying the troops, and it is inspiring people just to say, hey, we are all here. We're all a family. Let's continue to walk the course and be as productive as we possibly can.
Yeah, I love it. And that's a great advertisement for Working Genius. So really right there, Jake, I couldn't have finished any better than you just did it. So I appreciate you, and I'll be talking to you guys soon.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks for today. From here, I get the pleasure of introducing someone that I introduce frequently. His name is Rory Sheppard, and he is the firm owner of ActionCOACH of West Texas. So I'll start off with his why. Rory is a simplify. In fact, he writes a blog post called Simply Put. He started that before he knew what his why operating system was. Rory believes in making things simple so they're useful and understandable. How he does that is he makes sense of it. He'll read a book and he'll take something with 10 to 15 concepts in it, and it's got to stay down to 5, but he would prefer 3. And so he's constantly working to simplify business planning and our training approach to help business owners and leaders. What Rory brings to the table is, and how you experience him, is there is a right way to do that. And he believes that when clients develop consistent and predictable systems and processes, they are able to profitably move forward, which is important. We want them to make a profit. His working genius is the discriminating ideator. He's a creative, intuitive, and confident generator of new ideas. and he uses instinct and integrative thinking to solve real problems, right? So he's that ID with the innovator and the discerning, very similar to Jim, who we just saw. He's doing the wonder and the discernment. Rory is discerning his innovation as he goes through. His motivators are economic. Rory appreciates a bottom line result. And his next one is aesthetic. He's more interested in functional approaches that generate a practical return rather than experiencing the unique of a process. So you can see his disc up there. Right. Rory kind of falls, if we had the circles up here, it kind of falls in the center, which means it's kind of a chameleon, a true unicorn, because he can adapt and pivot. So welcome, Rory. I'm excited to move to the next part of the conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Tiffani. So I'm going to go very quickly through the why operating system. And this is around unleashing your purpose and really getting to that, back to Simon Sinek's golden circle, that why, how, and what. So when we take this assessment, when we use this assessment, our team members understand each other much better. We can get the team members in the right position for productivity, passion, and moving forward in a motivated way. And I can also have alignment and momentum as we're doing that. Because when I am connected to my beliefs or what is core to me, I can move forward in a much stronger way. We did have a conversation a couple of weeks ago about should I do this at all levels of the organization, or really should it just be the senior leadership of a team? And I would tell you that if I'm having a conversation even with somebody that's a checker or a bagger in a grocery store or working in the drive-through line at a Chick-fil-A, being able to talk to them about their why of a better way or their why of contribute could make a significant difference for them in how I talk to them, how I teach them, how I train them. So again, we probably have all seen the Simon Sinek TEDx talk now. I did hear an amazing fact the other day that only 53 people were in the room at the original broadcast of that, or the original creation of that. Now, millions of people have watched it and understand that it should start with why. But that's kind of the basis for this. And Gary Sanchez of the Why Institute went out and did a lot of work with this over time. But we know from Tony Robbins that when you start with your why, you'll know how to live. Friedrich Nietzsche says, he who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. And then one of my favorites, Mark Twain, said the two most important days of your life are the day that you are born and the day you find out why. So this is the why operating system. And so there are 9 whys. The research that has been done, there are really 9 different ways that we interact and discover and encounter the world around our whys. And those 9 are contribute, trust, make sense, better way, right way, challenge, and then mastery, clarify, and simplify. And these are in order of the most common why down to the least common why. So the largest slice of the population, their why is to contribute or trust or make sense, all the way down to mastery, clarify, and simplify is the least common of those. So when I use the why operating system, it's around the why is why I do what I do. How is how I bring my why to life. And what is what I ultimately bring. And so Tiffani and I have worked together for over 2 years, almost 2.5 years. And so I'm going to show you those 3 things that we've gone over today, our DISC and our Working Genius and our YOS. And we're going to take just a couple of minutes and kind of talk about, even though we know each other pretty well, once we put these into place and we've got the details and the assessments and the language that we can use, maybe a couple of changes that we made along the way. And so Tiffani, one thing would be, and I know this probably was a frustration with you after you discovered it. But the first thing was, from a working genius point of view, I started doing the research on this assessment, reading the books, watching and listening to podcasts and those kind of things for 3 or 4 months before I let you know that I was even looking at it. And the reason why was I was pretty sure as soon as you got a hold of it, you would want to take off with it and tell everybody. And so that really is that working genius of galvanizing. And that as soon as you took it, what did you do?
I did exactly what you said, right? I started telling everybody, you got to take this, started sending it out, talking about it. It becomes center focused for me. So I wouldn't call it a frustration, but it was a humor point for me that I found out he'd been looking at it for so long, but he wanted me to stay focused over here with what I was working on currently. Right. So we do call him brilliant.
So the other one that I think actually came up in spades about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, we did a webinar similar to this. Now I'm going to use a little hyperbole and this is way big exaggeration, but we finished the webinar. I tell it as if it was like 5 seconds later, you pick up the phone and you call me and you start describing all the ways that we could have done better with the webinar. Right. And not because you hated the webinar as it was, you actually loved it.
Right.
But your why of better way kicked in and you said, and these are all the ways that we can improve. Luckily, since I knew that was your better way, I said, Tiffani, I appreciate your better way. However, can we at least celebrate for just a second how successful we were before we start improving it?
Yes. Yes.
But I would tell you that changed our communication, right? So even you and I that work together every day, 2.5 years, we were in a different spot because we had the language around our YOS with you, with your better way and wanting to make an immediate improvement, and me saying, hey, slow your roll just a little bit. Can't we celebrate before we do that?
Yes. And I love that. And I think when we talk about combining assessments together, when you take that better way and the high D behavior trait that I have, that's right. My favorite saying is skinny pedal on the right. Right. Just being able to have that communication that says, hey, this is the way we need to move. So we do take time to celebrate. I say that we're working to take time to celebrate. But it also gave me a really great reflection, Rory. And I don't know if I've shared this with you, but I used to be at the American Quarter Horse Association, helping them with some stuff. And my assistant that I worked with every day, she'd always say, slow your roll. Hey, push the brake a little, Carter, push the brake. But now I have verbiage around that, and now I can communicate better, even better.
Even better.
Even better. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So love that. And so again, no matter how long we've worked together, not unlike the 3 J's from Whitney Russell Printing or you and I, right, for just a couple of years, when I combine the tools, all of a sudden I have a different visibility and a different understanding of how to act or interact with that. So again, we showed you 3 assessments today, kind of walked through those. Just know that there are a significant number more, right? And so part of our role and part of the things that we do with clients all the time is come up with fit and purpose to say, you know, if you got a lot of conflict in your organization right now, maybe we need to use the Thomas Kilmann instrument around conflict to get you some language around that. Or it could be that, you know, you're getting frustrated, you're teaching your team multiple times, going through process and procedure, and they're not getting it. Maybe it's that we need to do the visual, auditory, kinesthetic assessment so that you understand how they communicate, how they learn, how to interact. And so absolutely fit for purpose is very important to us as we kind of think about and talk to business owners, business leaders about what should the assessments be. I'm going to bring Donna back in as well. If you've got any questions about anything you saw or heard today, we would love to have you drop those into the chat and we can talk about those. I would also just kind of ask a question for for us as we're waiting to see if we've got any. Tiffani, what would you say the biggest aha moment for you was once you got your assessment from Working Genius?
I think they give it a 2-word phrase, the intuitive activator. The biggest one was that, but then I go, right, Rory, a funny story, Rory and I were talking about it before we even ever took the assessment. And he was like, "Your enablement." And I was like, "No, your enablement." He's like, "No, your enablement." And what we realized, it does combine with my DISC. In fact, enablement's more on the people side, where the D is task. And so the galvanizing is more task oriented, and realizing that the benefit for me is I really do love the task to help people long term. And so it helps me remember that is your ultimate goal. So pause and make sure that you're galvanizing and that they're people. You got to remember that they're people involved. So I think that was a big piece for me, Rory.
How about you, Donna? I know you've taken DISC for years, but I think the DISC assessment that we've got and that we used with ActionCOACH is much more complete than others. So when you had that full language for you, what did that teach you, or kind of what would you say was a great takeaway from that?
You know, it's interesting, regardless with DISC or Working Genius or YOS, you know, your intuition, you know, it's there, you know, it's about you. You just don't have the language or the messaging around it. What all of these assessments do is really give you the language to talk to it and have commonality and bring it to life. And we're like, I know it's in me, but now I can talk to it, and now I can communicate effectively, and then others can communicate effectively with me because they understand me and I understand them. And what a gift. What a gift in all these different fashions to be able to have that language, a common language to talk to.
Amen. Donna always has the mic drop moment.
Am I back now? Yeah.
Yes, you're good.
Yeah. So this is a quote from a client that we interacted with about 6 weeks ago. We went through Working Genius, DISC, and VAC with them. You can read that, but just even though they had worked together, not unlike the 3Js, right? They'd worked together 15, 20 years. But just having Working Genius, having DISC, having VAC, they got to skip forward years of getting to know each other in a different manner, pros and cons, and kind of understand. She talked about all the way down to the soul of the person so that they could work together faster, better, and in a different way. I think that's huge and very impactful. All right, Tiffani, I'm going to turn this over to you to kind of talk about kind of what's next and what options are for our clients.
Awesome. So today only, for being participants on the call, you can get the individual assessments, the YOS, Y operating system. All of these are going to include a 30-minute call to go over your assessment in further detail. Quick story, spent some time with a cousin in the Dallas area a couple weeks ago. She had taken DISC years ago, but she hadn't gone over it with anyone, and she had some real aha moments. So the 30-minute call is really advantageous. YOS 225, Working Genius is 110, and DISC and Motivators is 175. If you take the links and purchase those today. So we are giving you a little bit of a discount on that through the participation of our webinar.
And Tiffani, I did drop those links into the comment section below on LinkedIn. So
awesome.
There are 3 links there. You can click on the specific link for YOS, Working Genius, or DISC and Motivators, and you can purchase 1 to 5 of those individual assessments for you or your team.
Love it. People tell me all the time, man, I can find that cheap free version online. I'm like, fantastic, right? Doesn't have, DISC has 58 pages, doesn't give you all the details, but a lot of the value in it is in the call and us going over it with you. So those are the individual. And then if you want to do a team assessment plus coaching, we have 2 packages for you today. You can choose 2 of the 3 assessments for a team of 5 plus a 2-hour coaching session. That coaching session is those participants together. The Why operating system, your working genius, and your disc and motivators. That's for $22.50. And then the other option is receiving all 3 assessments for the team of 5 plus the 2-hour coaching session for $22.50 as well today. So, right, huge discount to you guys for being on the webinar, but take advantage of that today. You've heard the value of it, right? The 3 J's have only had this in their lap for 48 hours. You can hear the impact and how they're going to change, how they operate, and that's just the beginning for them. So don't miss out on your opportunity. Your return on investment for having better productivity, better communication, right? It's going to be a 10x. Give it a try. Got to do it. Isn't that right, Donna Kettmeyer?
Yes. I can't say damn straight, but I was like, damn straight. Do it.
We'll have to edit that out. But
sorry.
So again, I want to go back and say thank you to Sharon and Melissa for going through DISC. Fantastic. Love the insight and the knowledge that they shared with us. And then the 3 J's from Whitney Russell. Thank you guys for indulging us and engaging us and being part of that and being a little bit vulnerable, not only on Tuesday, but today to share those. If you're out there, you've got a couple of links that are offered on the webinar link on LinkedIn, or you can contact Tiffani or Donna or I directly, and we can get those links to you. Would love for you to take advantage of that so that we can improve communication and improve culture in your teams, but also maybe identify a gap that's just completely missing on your team or in your leadership team to say, is there a different way to approach this so that we can make it better? All right. Fantastic. Love it. Thank you guys. Everybody have a great week. And if we don't see you before Labor Day, celebrate safely. And we'll see you in September.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, thank you.